Hey, welcome to the show, and today is September 5th, 2017. I have to first start excusing myself for taking the month of August off, even though I said I would do the news. I even prepped the news for the first week of August, took my suit all the way to the States, which is where I went on holidays, and I ended up being too busy with family matters and not doing any of these videos. So first of all, let me just say sorry for that. I will be back on track. We have a very long news, so get comfortable. And I hope you enjoy the news for basically the whole of August and this first few days of September. First, I want to start with a YouTube channel that I found that I think has a lot of interesting information regarding Darkroom. It's called the Timi Hall YouTube channel, and I left the link below so you guys can check it out. He has some amazing work in the darkroom, developing roll film without reels and printing and enlarging and all these kinds of things. I think the channel deserves at least someone to check it out and see what they think. I think it's very useful information. I know he is doing this like everyone on YouTube for free. So I think we should all show some support to people committing to this, especially people that have been in the industry or working in a darkroom for all these years and are passing on the information to younger generations, which is, I think, what all people should try to do in a certain way. In other news, we have a new lens coming from MS Optics, which is a small man, one-man operation in Japan, making usually Leica mount lenses. This time it's a 40 millimeters Protar 6.3, f6.3. And I left the link towards a website that talks about it and the Japan Camera Hunter, which is usually where you can buy it. As this was the first week of August, maybe they run out, as he never does big batches, but I highly recommend you check it out. His batches sell out very fast, and then you see them on resale on eBay for a plus. So I recommend if you ever find a lens you like from MS Optics, try to get it from the source. Also, there's a new lens that's been a little bit of a buzz around online called the 7 Artisans 50 f1.1, and it's an M mount. And as we all know, Leica has the Nikon Noctilux, which is 0.95 at the actual model. And this lens is around $400 to $500. The 7 Artisans, not the Noctilux, which is around $10,000. And the very known blog 35mmC has done a working review, which he keeps updating as he uses the lens, and I left the link below. I happened to check the lens by hand in San Francisco in a Film and Beer, and I have to say it's well built. It feels nice. It of course doesn't feel like a $10,000 lens, but for $500 or less, it looks pretty good. The user that brought it out said that at 1.1 it's pretty soft, which is understandable, but at f1.4 it starts to be pretty okay. So I think it's worth checking out if you want to shoot something in the f1-ish for a Leica mount. Also, the finished Kickstarter app or campaign that was FilmLab App has finally come out with a beta out for iPhone, and I think they have also come out with, not that I think, I know they've also come out with a beta for Android. There's been a few updates on their Kickstarter through emails for backers. I'll try to share those so you guys can see it as I was a backer. I haven't been able to download it and test it out, but I think I actually wrote something about it. No, I didn't write any more about it, but yeah, it's been updating. Soon I think it will be available at the store for non-backers, so I'll keep you guys updated with that information. Also, I found on a website photographer doing some 4x5 and traveling. It's not something I usually feature on the news, but I think it's worth mentioning because I kind of like the idea of someone driving or traveling through the States doing this project and sharing not only the shots but the stories behind it. There's a link to the f-stoppers, which is where I found it. There's a link to her website, and there's a link to her Instagram account. I say her because I think it's a woman. I wrote this 1st of August, so I might have forgotten, but I think it is. It's worth checking out. Also, something that's changed the TSA, which is the travel security something, it's the people that take care of security on airplanes and stuff like that, have been having a lot of changes lately with modern time terrorism. And one of the big changes was that you had to pack your laptop and all these things in your checked luggage if you're coming from certain airports. I think it was 8 airports at the time, and they were probably airports that didn't trust the security, so they made you put those devices under, even though they're dangerous. I'm guessing they're still going to be dangerous on the top or under the airplane, but that's not something I'm an expert on. But they've lifted it up. So now if you're traveling, I think, to certain countries, you're okay to take your camera gear, your laptop with you on your carry-on. Then TSA also came out with a note that any electronics bigger than a phone, and not that I'm talking about digital cameras because we're here to talk about film, but still any electronic camera, you know, like Nikon F100 or Nikon F5 that have batteries and stuff like that, X-Span, whatever. Those, anything bigger than a phone, had to be pulled out of your carry-on and put through the scanner in a separate tray, like we have been doing with laptops, tablets, stuff like that. But I was traveling in the US this summer, and I traveled to San Francisco, I traveled to Miami and Boston. And leaving Miami, they actually told me that I could keep all my electronics, laptops, tablets, phones, shoes on, and just go straight through the scanner. I don't know if they've changed the security measures with their scanners, but the TSA officer was very nice and asked me, oh, what kind of camera gear do you have in there? Because I travel with a big Pelican case, and I said, well, film and digital, because I do take my digital gear for videos. And he said, oh, film, what kind of film? And I said, well, all kinds of film. He's like, did you expose anything over 800? And I shot a lot of HP5 at 1600, like I always do on 35. So I said yes. And even though I know you should hand check and stuff like that, my family never really loves waiting for me half an hour to do that. So I've kind of learned to just put it through the carry-on and not argue with a guy. But this time, as he proposed it, I was like, okay. So I pulled all my film out and they hand checked it, which is surprisingly nice that they were caring more for my film and my memories than making me take out all my electronics. So I don't know what's the new regulation with TSA. I highly recommend you check out their website. I left the links below to their different bulletin boards or newsletters, so you can read what's the latest news on film, electronics, and so on, as you don't want to, lose your equipment while you travel. Another thing I've been seeing, and I haven't mentioned it in the news, and I don't know why, I must have forgotten, there's a new magazine about Darkroom. It's called Darkroom Underground. It's not officially a paper magazine, it's an online or PDF magazine. This is run by Tim Layden. I've been following him on Instagram and social media for years because he's a fellow film photographer and I like his work. But he does some YouTube videos too. I haven't linked the YouTube channel, but if you look up his name, it'll probably be down there. And he's come out with this Darkroom magazine. The first edition has come out, or the first number has come out. It has interviews and articles by some of the famous photographers, darkroom technicians, and so on. I think Tim, I forgot his name, the master at toning and all this is in there. So I highly recommend you check it out. You do have to pay. It's a subscription based. I think it's yearly, but it doesn't come out to be so much. And I think it's interesting to support these things. As I said before, the legacy of darkroom techniques and film is something we should all try to keep in the future. Also, while I was in San Francisco, I saw that Japan Camera Hunter Street Pan was starting to hit the streets. I went to Glass Key Photo and they were about to receive the 120. I couldn't get some of my hands on, but it's already being delivered to customers that bought it directly from Bellamy and customers or stores that are stocking it. For example, Glass Key, I know Macro Direct and other stores are getting their Street Pan. So in 120, sorry, I didn't mention that. So if you're interested in shooting Street Pan in 120, I highly recommend you hit your local store or online seller and get some. In other news, Alpa, the Swiss company that makes precision cameras, usually medium format digital and analog, have done a new edition of their famous Alpa 12 SWA. They say that it's the new edition of the classic, 12 SWA. It's a famous camera. It shoots up to 6x9 with roll film backs. I think they adapt to Mamiya, RB, and film backs, not the RZ ones. I think the RB, but you can check it out. So if you're into Alpa and you want to get a new edition, they have the new 12 SWA. Also, on one of my live streams that I do every Wednesday, we had, not the last one, but the previous one, we had Dave Bias come in and comment. Those comments kind of disappear, which is very, not very nice for YouTube, because there's interesting conversations there, and I actually talk to people and people ask me questions. Dave Bias was there and actually mentioned that Ferrania P30 might be coming at the end of the year in 120 format, which is always good news. So if you're one of those P30 supporters like I am, that I bought some, not from the Kickstarter, but after that, I recommend you keep your eyes peeled for that 120 version. Their store is still not open for the 35. I think they're trying to stock and get the product in their warehouse before they open the store again, so they can, supply the demand as they sell the film. Also, something that's not really digital film photography as stills, but still important for us film users, is that Kodak has opened a film lab, but for cinematographers, in 16mm and 35 in New York. Kodak has been reopening labs and distributions, some in India, some in the States, some in Europe. They bought a lab in London to keep film cinematography film use available and easy for people. So I think that's a good sign for us still photo shooters. Then we have a few news from Russia. We have the Kono, which is a reanimated film. This reminds me of the special effect film that they make in Germany. I can't remember the name right now, but there's a film that is mostly in Macro Direct. Oh, Revolog. It's very similar, but it's called reanimated film. They have all kinds of weird stocks and weird effects that you can check out if you're interested in that kind of thing. The link is below as always, and let me know what you think if you use it. Another thing that's been pretty big news on the analog forums and websites, groups on Facebook, some people got pretty rude in them, is that Nikon announced their D850, which is not news here, but it came with a service to invert negatives in the camera. And with that came the Nikon ES-2 scanning device. And this is something that Nikon surprised a lot of people, but it's very common today to see people scanning their slides, scanning their film with a digital DSLR or whatever. And I think that's to provide that service straight in the camera. A lot of people were saying, oh, for $3,000 whatever dollars, you might as well buy a great scanner. I don't think that's the whole idea, but if you have the camera, you seem to shoot both film and digital, it's a good thing that you can, digitalize with this special device. I'm not sure if the ES-2 will work on other digital Nikons, but I think if it's an adapter that works with a front lens, it should. And we'll have to wait and see when it comes out. There's also news from Voigtlander, who came out with a 58mm 1.4 lens, a Nocton SL2. This is for Nikon mount, so if you're a Nikon shooter and you want to have some of that manual, feel on your Nikon with a new glass, you can buy the Voigtlander 58 1.4. Another thing that's not so much film, but it's something I wouldn't feature, but I think it's important to see also with what I was saying about digitalizing film, is Canon came out with new tilt and shift macro lenses, a 50, a 90, and a 135. This is probably for product photography with digital photographers, but maybe if you're one of those guys scanning with a digital back, you might be interested, or you're shooting just with an EOS mount film camera like the Canon 1V or the 1N, you might be interested in macro photography, and you have 3 new lenses, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Also, there's another Russian new film called Type D200. I linked the website. It's all in Russian, and they run out of that film, so I can't give you many more details, but if you start looking, there'll probably be more things coming out in forums. Also from Russia, there's, let me see, where is it? There's a new film photography supplies called Silbera. It's silbera.ru as in Russian. Also, Russian website, can't give you much more information as it's all Russian, but they make chemistry And it's nice to see things moving in different countries, which might not be so easy to find certain brands, as they're not, I guess film is not as popular or not as easy because of imports and different things. So I'll keep you guys updated if there's any news with that. Also, a big Kickstarter campaign that has come out recently is the Lomo Instant Square. As you know, a Fujifilm came out with the Instax Square. Their camera was not really analog. It was a digital little camera that you could print or imprint the Instax Square. So it was a hybrid, not fully analog for those that, like me, enjoy the full, manual focus or the manual controls and shooting film straight onto film. I enjoy seeing this Lomo Instant Square. Their Kickstarter is fully funded, and you can check it out. There's still a bunch of days to get it, so do check the link below. Also, there was a new Kickstarter for the legendary Biotar 75 f1.5. I do think this Kickstarter has ended, so you might want to check it out just to keep the product in your favorites, just in case whenever it launches to the public, you can go ahead and buy it. There's a video too that I've seen on Edward Weston and his Darkroom. This is a channel that does in-depth videos, and they go through the Darkroom and how he used to work. Edward Weston, if you don't know, used to do a lot of contact printing and did amazing work. There's some famous pictures like the Pepper and so on. There's been some news on how he used to shoot with a very self-made, very small apertures. I think it was f240 for the Pepper, exposure of 4 to 6 hours, because of course it's almost like a pinhole, so the depth of field would be huge and everything would be in focus. So check it out, it's very interesting. I watched it last night and I think it deserves a feature. Mentioning, sorry. On the bad side of news, Winit closed, and you might be like, oh, what's Winit? Winit is the Ilford distributor for USA, and by Ilford I mean Harman, because Harman is the one making the film products today in England. So I left the link and I left answer about Ilford's answer on the Facebook of Silver Darkroom page. And they're saying they're looking for alternatives to see who would be the distributor. Some say that Winit wasn't distributing for the large stores, but only for small stores. But if you are shooting Ilford, it's good that you call your local store, whoever you're buying it from, and ask them what's going to happen, what's going to be the solution. If I see any new updates on if there's going to be any problems in stock or buying your products in the States, this is the USA, I'll let you know. Also on the Kickstarter, there's news about the lab box. They basically keep on working on it. It's working towards being a better product. They've had some issues with how do you say, the knife, the little thing that will slit the film. But they're working it out, and they have an update on their Kickstarter. It's open, so you can check it out if you want to know about the lab box. Also, the Intrepid Kickstarter has a lot of updates. They've kept the whole month of August out of updates, but they made one. They are finally sending the request for information for delivery. And if you were an 8x10 Kickstarter funder, you want to check out your email. Also, by Intrepid, they have made the 8x10 available to the public. So if you go to the website, you can get their 8x10 and 8x10 film holder, which came out at £45, which is a amazing price for an 8x10 film holder. Sorry. There's a new Kickstarter that's still not available. I got contacted by the makers of this product. It's called The Box. And it's called The Box Is Back, but the company is, well, I have the Facebook as The Box Is Back, but it's Ham Camera. I think Ham, H-A-M-M, but right now I don't have it written down here. I left their Facebook and their Instagram, but this is a modular box camera. And if you don't know what a box camera kind of is, like this Agfa clack. So it was a very simple mechanism. The Kodak Brownie was probably the most famous box camera, but this will be modular. So you'll be able to change probably lenses, maybe film backs, and so on. So this is very exciting. I can't really feature much more about it, but as soon as I have information, I'll let you know. Then going to a documentary that I thought was interesting. The documentary is called The Man Who Saw Too Much. And this is all about kind of like a Ouija of photography in, I think it's Mexico. Now I'm not sure, as I made all these news last night and I was extremely tired. But I recommend you check it out. This is all shot on film, not the documentary, but him, as of course it was the only option. But I think it was really interesting to hear how he became a photographer for basically all the dead or murders or dead people in the city he lived in. So I left a link below so maybe you can see if it features in your hometown. Also, the last thing, there's a new company making photography gear and it's called the Wanderer Photo Gear. So far, they only have dark cloths for large format cameras. If you don't know what a dark cloth is, it's basically a big piece of cloth and it's dark to help you focus under your large format camera on your ground glass. So if you like a good product, they look like they're well made. They have different designs, which is nice. They usually used to be very simple products, but he added some patterns and different textures. And if you're interested, I left the link below. So yeah, as always, thanks for watching. If you have any information, follow the email below. You can write me there or social media and give me hints of news that I might have forgotten, as it's been a long month. And is there any future news you think I should feature? Thanks again. See you next week.